Hello YouTube, this is Tammy Pie and I'm back with another video. This is going to be, interestingly enough, I didn't start it out to be this, but it is going to be a VR to an older hashtag, a 2-year-old hashtag that was done by April over at Tarot and Witchery. And the hashtag is hashtag deck FOMO. And here's why. In this innocuous brown box is a deck that I bought because of deck FOMO. Now, deck FOMO. What is deck FOMO? It sounds so dramatic. It is fear of missing out, or fear that you're not going to be able to get a deck later. Going on the internet or to your medical physical bookstore or wherever you go to get your decks, because you need that deck and you're terrified that it's either going to go out of print or be impossible to find if you don't buy it in the next little while, like the next day or so, the next week or so. Probably not much longer than that, because when we talk about FOMO, we're almost always talking about something along the lines of, I gotta get it now, right now. So every once in a while, even in the case of mass market decks like the Chicoli Tarot or the Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels, just lately have said, people have said, oh, those are going out of print, so if you want one, go get you one right now. And both of those decks I had. And this is question number 1. What triggers deck FOMO for you? So what triggered deck FOMO for me was the fact that the creator of this deck actually sent out a web announcement saying, this is going out of print. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done. So sometimes people start out that way. For instance, with the Sistine Tarot, she said, I'm just going to sell this for a little while and then I'm not going to sell it anymore. I'm just going to print it for a couple of weeks. You can either buy it or not, and then I'm not going to print anymore. So I went and got one, and thank goodness I did. And I'm not the only one. There's I would say the majority of people who bought that deck are glad they did. This deck here, and I did get the expansion pack too, is a deck that is, I don't know, maybe 6 years old. I want to say 6 years old. It's been around for a while. It's seen YouTube creators come and go. Some of the first people is the Spacious Tarot. And some of the people that I used to watch that said, wow, this is a great deck, and this is my favorite deck, and this is the deck that will be forever, are not even on YouTube anymore. Some of those people just stopped doing the whole tarot sphere thing, right? Which is fine. God bless them. But I always thought, well, it's a widely published, well-loved deck. Some people are going to get tired of it and sell it on, and it'll be easy for me to get, because generally, that's how I look at these things. Most of the time, you're not looking at a Sistine Tarot situation. You're looking at a dare I say it, a Lisa Hunt fairy tale tarot situation. So Lisa Hunt Fairy Tale Tarot for a long time has been out of print, and people were dying to have it. I was not, but that's just me. And they paid big money for it. $200, $300, $500, $800 for a deck. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if you have the $800 to buy something and that's the only way you can get it, and you really want it, the market bears what people are willing to pay. And I know this aggravates people. People are frustrated because how dare somebody charge $200, $300, $400 for something that was originally $25 or less, or maybe a little more, or whatever. So when the creator came on and said, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm not printing any more of these, this is going out of print, I finally pulled the trigger and bought it from the creator, along with the little expansion pack. And here's why. I have always been curious about it. I've always wanted it. I saw other decks that came out that were similar to it, that gave me a similar feel, but nothing was ever exactly the same. The stuff that I love about the deck, I still love about the deck. The reason I've never bought this secondhand is because there were other decks that I was buying secondhand. Okay? So, so question number 2 is, what FOMO deck purchase do you regret? Hang on a second. Okay, I'm looking around at the decks that I have here with me in Hawaii, and there's nothing here that I regret purchasing, nothing. I regret having gotten 3 of the same Mundi RWSs, but that was my own fault. That was me trying to do an order on a phone in a hurry because, yeah. The decks that I regret buying, I moved on. I sold them back into the tarot collection space. I gave them up. I remember at one point the Moon Oracle was the one that's got all the moon feet. It's really pretty. Done by the same artists who did the Elemental Tarot, I think, or Elemental Tarot. And I think they're also the people that did that other deck that's all horoscope. That's Zodiac. Anyway, when I got the Moon Oracle, I'm glad that I had it for a while, because it was a really interesting oracle that had really beautiful artwork. It just wasn't, it has a system to it that didn't work with how I practiced at the time. So I ended up selling it on for less than I paid for it. And honestly, I still made some of my money back. I'm still glad that I got to play around with it. And the other person was thrilled to have it. And then later it came back out again. So now it's like you can find the Moon Oracle for $25 or whatever. I don't even know. There was a tarot deck that I bought. I want to say it was called the Decadence Tarot, something like that. It had the same picture on the backs as the vintage, that vintage photo oracle by Stacey DeMarcos. And I bought that deck because of the backs. Because I wanted a tarot deck that matched the backs for that oracle. And when I got it, I couldn't get along with the artwork because the person who created it had taken artworks and stretched them out so that they fit the tarot dimensions. And that didn't work for me. And I've also, Vintage Wisdom Oracle, that's what it is. I've also since passed on Vintage Wisdom Oracle. Not because I didn't like it, I did. I just used it for a while and then I was done, right? So Tarot and Oracle are, we use them, we play with them, we enjoy them, and then we move them on. It's not, except for a very few decks, it's not like you're going to leave your collection to the Library of Congress. Or, I mean, my kids might want a few of my decks, but for the most part, they're more interested in the tarot journals that I create behind having all these decks and enjoying them, and doing deck studies and studying the runes and studying I Ching and studying the different ways that tarot connects to all of us. So how do I set limits? That's question 3. How do I set limits? I don't have an undersupply of money. I don't have very much money, honestly, if I'm honest. Every once in a while, I get like an influx of dollars that I can play around with. And honestly, I should be using that to pay off other bills. But because this is something that I enjoy, I usually use that influx to buy some things that I've been thinking about for a while. And after that, I might have the money to buy 1, maybe 2, depending on how cheap or expensive they are. And if I don't buy that 1 or 2 in the month, then maybe I have enough to buy 1 or 2 more expensive decks the next month. Maybe I don't. Maybe I want to. Maybe I don't want to. I do think that my FOMO is in part set off by decks that I feel will not be available to me at a later time. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. For instance, over the holidays, I bought the Gothic Literature Tarot because Syrian Shadow does not always reprint his decks. And I wanted it because of the art, I wanted it because of the theme, and I wanted it because of the cardstock. And that's enough for me. Have I used it? Some. Have I enjoyed it? Very much. Am I keeping it? Yes. Am I glad that I went out and purchased it quickly? Yeah. Yeah, I am. Every once in a while, something will happen, like a collector will be downsizing. A few years back, one of the bigger YouTube channels, Wild Moon Woman, got the call from JC and totally changed her mind about everything and completely gave up all her tarot and oracle decks. As she was selling them, and I mean, if it was really her being super Jesus-y, wouldn't have she burned them? I don't know. One of the decks that she sold was the Tarot of Delphi, which I bought for $150. Now, as far as FOMO goes, and as far as collectible OOP decks go, for the Tarot of Delphi, $150 is nothing. Because I played around with that deck for 3-4 years, and then I sold it on for a good deal more than that. And I probably wouldn't have sold it except for that someone offered me outrageous money and I really needed the money at the time. So I thought, I've had this deck for a long time. I played around with it. I really like it, but I mean, I can certainly sell it for that quantity of money. Why not? How many decks do you have it's like a weird question because the majority of my decks are not here with me. The majority of my decks are in Yakima. But in total, I have a little over 300. And I don't feel like that's too much. I know what I have. I enjoy my collection. I don't have to use every single deck, even once a year. I think it's great when I can go back and look at something and go, wow, I haven't touched this for a year, but I really remember how much I love it. And that's fine. How many decks do I need? I mean, none. I don't need any decks. At one point in Yakima, where I used to live, there was some pretty close fires. And right now, the people in LA are really suffering. People have lost their homes, people have lost their neighborhoods, people are losing their minds. And the fire is such a weird thing because you never know if it's going to go this way or it's going to go that way. It just depends on the wind, right? And how well the first responders are able to deal with it. And when I thought my house might burn down, tarot decks was the last thing on my mind. All I thought about were my family members. Maybe some photo books. That's it. That is literally all I cared about. So you don't need any decks. I would probably keep everything that was in my purse. If I had to grab something, just one or two things, I'd probably just grab whatever's on this shelf and run, right? So what's this? Supernatural, Spirit Keepers, Nicoletta Ciccoli, Tiny Sparrow. What is this? This is Stretch Tarot and Eastern Ink, okay? If I grabbed anything at all, because I don't think I need anything. You can buy another tarot deck if you have to. You can start collecting again if you have to. Question number 5 is how many decks do I need? Or I'm sorry, that was question 4. I'm sorry. Question 5 is how many decks do I need? Question 6 is what is a positive deck fomo purchase? That's got to be 15, right? When she said this deck is going out of print, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of, but I was like, okay, I can take a little out of my savings and put a little into there and there and there, and I can buy the cheapest option that she offered, which she did. She offered cheaper options and more expensive options, and some people bought a couple of them. And if I'd had the money, I would have bought more than one. But there's been other times, like buying that Tarot Delphi from Wild Moon Woman. I was so glad I did. More than anything because I so enjoyed the deck. For a long time I was looking for La Tarot Symbolique Masonique, which is the Masonic tarot. And that one, very out of print, was really hard to find at the time. So I found a couple of them on eBay one weekend, and I was like, oh man, this is too much money. I should definitely not even be looking at these. But honestly, I'm glad I did. It was a little more than I would spend now on anything collectible, because what I've seen, the trends that I've seen nowadays, are that the collectible prices are going down. People are no longer willing to pay that $800 level, that $1,200 level for most things. There are some things that people will always pay for, and some people who will always have money to buy them, right? But I don't think I would pay that much again. Instead, I would either wait to see if it comes out again, which a lot of times these decks are coming out again, right? So I moved on my Bonestone and Earth Flesh, and it's going to come mass market. It hasn't come yet, but it will. I moved on that indie Lightseers deck, because the regular mass market one is fine. It's fine. If you're going to use it, you might as well use the mass market one, as far as I'm concerned. And actually, the one in the tin is wonderful. It's so cute and perfect. So, yeah, I mean, FOMO has served me in the past. It has allowed me to get things that I might have missed had I not had FOMO. So sometimes you gotta lean into that fear, right? And finally, number 7, what are your thoughts on the current state of deck FOMO in the tarot community? I don't know. What is the current state? This tag was made 2 years ago. So, I mean, there's still people putting tons of decks on their credit cards that can't afford it. And there's still, and you know, that's what credit is made for. So you can go out and get things that you can't afford to buy right away, in case it runs out, in case there isn't any more next month, next year. Some of these decks that I've moved on have not come back out. Might not come back out. I might never get them again, but that's fine. I had them, I enjoyed them, I moved them on. And I think that that's the trick. The trick is not to be immediately triggered by someone you know on social media and respect and say, I gotta have that because so-and-so said it was great. Because I did this last year, and fortunately I didn't spend a whole lot of money doing it, but there was a deck that I bought that I knew I wasn't gonna like, but I had always wanted to test it out. And when I tested it out, I was correct. I did not like it. So now at least I know that I don't like it and why I don't like it. So it was a good experience either way, right? I think all things in what's the famous quote? Just go easy. You don't have to have all the things. Just because it's beautiful, just because you like it, just because other people like it, you don't have to have it. You can look at it online. Very often, there are plenty of people that are showing it all the time, and you can look at it there. And, if you got to have it, these things come up. They come up all the time. I'm always buying secondhand decks. I'm always finding secondhand decks that people said were impossible to find. And we find them. They're out there. People will sell them. They'll get rid of them. Collectors will leave their collections to their nieces or nephews or children or grandchildren, and they won't want them, and they'll sell them. So that happens all the time. So don't have too much FOMO. You're going to be okay if you don't have that certain deck. Okay? So thank you, April, because this was good. And it was good 2 years later. A really great tag that can resurge, right? And thank you for coming.